Hello again, everybody. Harry Box of the Technical Trader at techtrader.com. It's Saturday morning, March the 11th. This is the weekend webinar. Well, a disappointing week last week for sure, after the markets had bounced on the S&P in particular off the trend line, had a nice 3-day run the week before into Friday, and then followed through Monday before collapsing the rest of the week, particularly Thursday and Friday, exacerbated by the Silicon Valley Bank debacle, and you can see the big volume that it traded on the downside as well. Now we're at the bottom of the channel as I have a 1, 2, 3 here, but even if we do get a fourth, we may get a fifth. The bottom line is support right now is at 37.65, 3,700, and 36.55.60 in terms of the next support levels potential. If you step back and look at the entire pattern, the disappointment comes where we had the big reversal in October. We had a 1, 2, 3 or breakout. The pullback came right to the declining top line, and then the bounce off of that, which on a technical basis had a very high degree of probability of extending, but it did not due to the financial situation. In any case, that's what the S&P looked like. The Nasdaq's about the same. And you can see the big downtrend broken after a base formed and multiple lows were tested. The stock index ran up right to resistance at 12.9 and pulled back in a nice 1, 2, 3 and bounced, but gave it all back during the week and closed right under, just under. That's the first time it's done that too, under the 50 since this one day here, and that resulted in a big snapback. And I don't know if that's going to be the case here, whether or not Monday is going to be an update, but I don't think problems have been solved yet. So support right now is 11.525 and then 11.250. The small caps took the brunt of it with a big hit, dropping from 112 on the IWM to 103 and change. It's a 9-point drop. And now testing some key support along this zone right there. We break there, we're probably headed down to 100, maybe less. So this is a broken pattern as well. That's the way I view the trend. And that's a broken pattern right there on Thursday and Friday follow through. Now, if it holds here, great, but there's a possibility we can see 99 to 100 next. Getting a little climactically oversold, but we'll look at that in a moment. This is the IWS, I'm sorry. It's very similar as IWM, but that one dropped last week from 192 to 174, 18 points, 10% or so in a week. Pretty big drop. You can see that lateral price support here, broken, trend line broken. Next support, 169, followed by the September, October lows, 163. We see the big volume on the downside on the small caps. They really blast them. Transportation, right back to the trend line after breaking key support. It's now a 1, 2, 3, 4, a 3-wave corrective affair. At least it looks like it. But with that kind of volume, I have to call it impulsive and not corrective. Key support on trannies are 14,000 at about 13.4. So the market has an opportunity of holding the line right here and rallying it, which wouldn't be a surprise based on a couple of things. Let's take a look at it. The McClellan oscillator minus 200. Closing minus 203. That's the biggest, one of the worst closes we've seen, at least in September. But if you take a look at this level, here, 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 and then there is where several rallies began. But there was also lower levels down in the 270 90 range, which might happen on Monday morning if we, open with a downward gap and throw the baby out with the bathwater and do a selling climax early on. I do think the market's extended here to the downside. Take a look at the percentage of stocks above their 40, plunging in a week from 52% to under 19%. Now that's one hell of a drop. But we've seen it before. Here, 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 here. That's what happens when they come down. And they come down hard. Now, there was a down gap. What's interesting about Friday, breakaway gap to the downside below support And now it looks like we could get down at least in the 15 range early Monday morning. That's what I'd be looking for. I'm looking for climactic numbers. Now we saw on the tick minus 1560 or 70, a huge number, and then another 1300 tick on Friday. So we're getting those climactic numbers, but we haven't yet reached the proportions I wanted to see all at once. And the VIX, now finally, after all these months of non-activity, check this out. Spike City, from 19 to 29, a 10-point spike up. On Friday alone, up 10%. On Thursday, I think, was up 20%. So it's had a big, big pop. And it's broken through everything. Highest reading in the VIX since October. And we might get this into the low to mid 30s before we get a tradable low. I think that's coming up very quickly. We'll see. That's a look at some underlying indicator. Let's look at the big boy, the big groups. SMH would cover the semiconductors, and you can see a 1, 2, 3, 4. And obviously this has not broken yet, but it's right on the trend line. Your price support, lateral price support is about 232. We closed near 238. Have a little leeway here. But any move under that, we could drop quickly down to 218. So it's going to be something to watch closely. SMH as a leader or not. And financials really getting whacked because of the bank situation. Look at that rollover. Never a good thing. When one of the leading groups gets whacked like that. And from nearly 85 down to 60 very quickly. Huge volume. But it looks like selling climactic type action we saw here in September, here in June. So this was much quicker even. Take a look. In 4 days, 82 to 60. It's a huge drop for ETF. The overall structure, though, could be left shoulder head and then right shoulder forms. But this is no longer a valid line. This is. Stay tuned, we'll find out. And finally, biotechs took the brunt of it too last week. After holding up so well, the XPI whacked for almost 3 points. And it's a little bit under support technically. Or right there. Oversold short term, we need to see if there's a bounce, but if they crack them here, biotechs could really fall apart. As witnessed by what happened to the LABU late last week, holding up so well for months, finally rolled over and cracked 595.6, plunging to 4.5, 457. Look at the volume on that move down. Usually indicative of some sort of bottoming process. May take another day or so, but this looks interesting. Keep an eye on LABU and XPI next week. So that covers the indices, the technicals, and some of the ETFs, but I wanted to show you the ETF for gold and silver. Now, we did get a bounce on Friday, but do you see anything here that tells me this is a bottom? Only that key support so far is held. But should this get under 26.5, we're not done yet with gold. Now, what I want to see is GDX over 28.65 with energy that could turn the tide. It is at the trend line. Another ETF for that group we follow is Nugget and JNUG. You can see that doing the same thing in this area. Need to bottom, or let's put it this way. Last week's lows on these ETFs for gold and silver, really important. And speaking of silver, HEQ made a lower low. Looks like it filled this gap there and bounced. But again, until that gets over 24 3/4, it hasn't turned yet. So much for gold and silver. What about oil? Well, you can see the USO down last week with a reversal Friday, but I am not convinced. I think oil goes lower. I've been telling you that for weeks. Well, everybody's bullish on oil. Goldman Sachs said 102. I mean, whatever. Barrel. Here is where we're at, and we're at a support level right there. Triple bottom. We crack here. You're going to see 108 3/4 on Gush. So look at the overall structure. Looks pretty toppy to me. When you see the individual charts I'll show you today, you'll know what I mean. Let's look at gold, silver, and oil, but what about gas? Well, look at coal. I just want to point out that coal dropped, get this, in half in 8 days, 82, 41. So this bounce is a technical bounce on the order of about 0.375 fib, almost 50%. If it fails here, this comes down. I'm watching SCO, big basing pattern, and I'm watching drip. A nicer basing pattern, in my opinion. If this gets over 16.5, targets at 20 and 23. Well, just keep your eyes on those for now. And let's move on. We have a lot of stocks and shorts to cover today. It's going to be a long video. There are still about 100 stocks I'm following that look pretty good. ACHR is one of them. I moved from 162 within 5 weeks to get up to 334, a double. And then a pullback, a pop, pullback, pop. So we have to get this up through 325.35. And then your targets are near 385 and 5. Software stock, ACV auctions. You can see the base to break out, to retest the wedge, and pop in another wedge, telling me despite the market, this stock was higher with a target of 16. AEHR got hit hard and then rebounded dramatically. But now that it's rolled over again, this is the area we really got to be careful in, because they roll over here could be really ugly. Your support right now on AEHR is 26 3/4 and 23.5. Simple as that. AI got crushed last week after a beautiful pop the week before. Down now 5 days, every day last week, and plunging from the Monday spike high of near 30 down to 21 and change, losing 9 points from Monday's high. You can see the double bottom down here now, a triple bottom. You cannot let this go below 20, 20.5, or it's going to get hammered into the high to mid-teens. Dangerous looking chart. ALGM in the semiconductor group, base breakout, wedge, pop. It's a 1, 2, 3. This is wave 4. But in this market, one must keep stops on everything. In this case, 42. Target 52. In the biotech sector, some of them have really gotten hurt. One that's holding up well is Alvo. Pop, falling wedge, breakaway gap, coil, pop, pop. That's 2 gaps there in a coil. Another pop, a little wedgie, and a pop again. Pull back, hold support, but that's your stop now. You cannot let this go into 12.5. It did pop Friday in the midst of a lousy market, up 103 or 8%, something to watch. Let me repeat this. The stocks that hold up the best in a lousy market or in a weak market are the stocks that usually perform the best when the market does turn. So these 100 stocks I'm going to show you today all should be on a watch list for you folks, because their relative strengths are phenomenal. AM. Spikes up in December, takes a couple months, and the falling wedge. And it breaks out, pops and has an inside day, and it follows up beautifully, and then it pops again. Last Monday and the rest of the week spent in a falling wedge, but the volume receded and the technicals look great. And if I don't miss my guess, this is going to be 12, 14, 16, 18. It could be a real big winner, one to watch next week. EPA, I'm going to just show you a couple examples, but this is a short. I don't have it in my box of shorts list because I have so many oils on it, and I like the company. But boy, 2 things: a long-term uptrend, broken, followed by a bounce and a bear flag and a rollover. Target 32, 30-32 zone is my first target, okay? ARDX, what a wonderful chart. And it exploded the week before last. And it's breaking out of a coil with a breakaway gap. A little bit of a follow through on during the middle of the week, but it finally got hit Thursday, Friday. You can see resistance on this one, but over 415, we're looking at 5 or better. Biotech drug stock, Assertio Holdings, from October low in the 2 range, it's run hard to 7. That's 250% gain in about 6 months. The big pop on Thursday, followed by the big drop on Friday, always has me worried that it might be a topping pattern. Assure Software, going nowhere, it just suddenly erupted in October and kept running. From 4 3/4, it went to 15, nearly quadrupling. There's your sharp angle of ascent. And it's one of the better charts on the street. However, Thursday, Friday, with the market drop, this started to pull back, as you can see. Support about 12, 12.25. ALTX explodes, pulls back, and then pops again. Now look at that flag within a large wedge. Obviously, any breakdown here, you want to be out of it. But keep an eye on this one. If it holds 16, it could pop to 19, 20 or much more, especially if that wedge gets taken out with volume. AUPH, well, folks, apologies from my side. 1, 2, 3, 4 tops broken with a breakaway move, a good volume. But Thursday and Friday's market brought this one back down again and reversed. From a Friday pop to 1043, it dropped to 860 and finished 879. This has to be stopped under 8.5. BDRY, well, dry bulk shipping group has been pretty strong, and this one's come right up to the neckline. Key resistance here at about 10 and a quarter. We break through here, you're looking at 12 and 14. Nice chart. BLBD, well, beautiful inverse head and shoulder breakout retest, and then pop, pull back, pop. However, bearish engulfing day on Friday, I wanted to show it to you. It's a very bullish chart, but it probably needs to rest. It may come down. Your support right now is 18.5, 16.5. Alerifon, how about this move? $1.25 to 8.25 in just a week and a half, with a 2-day pop and a 2-day pullback, and then a 3-day pop and a 1-day stall. Then the next day came down and reversed. It just looks strong, really strong in this market. Now, there's some lateral resistance right up here that may thwart this advance, but your next target is about 8.25. BORR, look at this rising channel. Now, it's in the oil and gas group, so it may suffer in going forward. I just want to show you how strong it's been of late. And if it does continue to run, 9.75, 10, and maybe 13 could be longer term targets, but careful on it. And it's a stop under 6. BOWL, what a nice chart. And it ran up sharp and it finally peaked. The all-time high is 1745, I believe, right? And then pulled back down on Friday, so keep an eye on it. But your next target is 19. CBAY, after popping in May, June, July, it then went sideways for 4 months. Broke out in December, just kept running. It's gone from 3 tripling to 9 and change. 954 was a high Thursday, and it's pulling back down now. So you can't let this one get under 7.25. Seco Environmental, one of my tech trader swings, it's been beautiful and it's still holding. And although it had a big reversal day on Tuesday from 16.75 to 13.25, it then bounced. Now Friday came down again, so it remains in a consolidation rising trend with a really good chart. Cody, well, it's had a big run. It's gone from 6 to 11.5, nearly doubling, and you can see the rollover every day last week down and under support. Careful with this one. Carvana, massive move on short covering. It took this one from 360 to 1987, tripling, up 6-fold in a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-wave blow off advance. You can see what's happened since 1987 to the close on Friday at 7:30. It's dropped 11.5 points and it's under support and it looks bearish. Next stop, 5.75, 6. Electronics, look at that coil and breakout. I mean, in this market, for a stock to do this, relative strength, incredible. This one's gone from $1.50 to 4.80. It looks like it could be the $6 stock. DAO, Chinese internet stock, Dow. Really nice rising channel, 45-degree angle, spiked up near resistance earlier last week and pulled back, but continuing 11.5, 12, and 14.5, 15 potential targets. DHT, the shipping group, been phenomenal. Big 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm much more skeptical. The stock's gone 4.5 to 12. But look at long-term chart. You'll see it's the highest level achieved since 11 years, and it's coming out of a huge base which could support a move into the high teens. So the stock may have enough momentum to go higher. Of course, market cooperating. Dole, look at this chart. This food company broke out here, pulled back and tested. Basically, resistance was in that zone. It came down tested it, moved up, pulled back, it's trending still. So you get the resistance here, you might see 14. Little DPRO popped, pulled back, 1, 2, 3, and then exploded from 65 cents vertically in a month to 246. Now it's consolidating, wedging, and doing a nice job of it, I'll say. Friday, it rebounded 11% in a lousy market. So keep an eye on this one. If it gets above 245, your targets are 3 and 4. EDAP's been in a terrific long-term rising channel ever since the double bottom in May of June of last year and broke out in August. The run has taken it from under 6 to as high as 1278. Friday was a bullish engulfing reversal bar to the upside. Stop under Friday's low, target 14 and 16. EDU, Chinese education stocks have been very strong, especially EDU. You can see this rising pattern. It is consolidating for the last few weeks, but holding up very well at a very high level. Key resistance at triple top at 45.5. We get to that, you're looking at 55.60. EHTH, beautiful rising channel, exploded to new high, new 52-week high recently, and pulled way back. Double bottom, stop under 7,710. ELVN, breakaway gap, coil, another breakaway gap on a longer term coil, and then it popped, pullback. And finally edging up to as high as mid-20s. This one reached 25.34 and it's pulled back, but it looks really good. I'd have to say this. I'm looking for 31 and 38 if it continues, but I'd also keep a stop under 18. ERJ, this is the large Brazilian airliner manufacturer competitor for Boeing. Breakout, coil, and explosive move on Friday with a nice day. 13.55 to over 15, finished 14.40. But more importantly, you can see targets are 16 and 18. ETNB, a beautiful biotech on a long-term rising channel. Saw this stock go from under 2 to the mid-teens. Now the pullback. Friday was exceptionally negative, down 6%, but at the trend line. The stop, however, is under 10. FDMT, one of my top picks for the year, after really doing well in November, December, has come down, and then Friday had a hard dip. But it's really reversed from 1467 to 1839 up to 41. Basically, just about filled this gap in reverse. So keep an eye on this one. I need to follow through. Foot Locker. In the midst of all of this, look how well this stock's doing. Last 4 or 5 weeks, it's been coiling. Key support right now is about 41. Targets at 47.52. FRO, another, even though it says oil and gas, this is in a shipping group. And it's extended and above the channel. So it may need to pull back, but momentum is very strong in this one. For solar, again, another example of a stock that tagged my targets. 215, 20 was my target. We hit almost 218. And I'm top of the channel, so this one's vulnerable. But long term, I would see 250. Fastly breaks out of a base, explodes, pops and pops again, but then came down hard Thursday, Friday with the market at support, needs to hold right there. Fusion pops out of a base, 3-wave corrective, almost fills that gap. That's the trend line reverses. Targets are 5.25 and 6. Nice chart considering the market, that's for sure. GE, well, how about this chart? Base pattern, breakout, retest, run through everything. Takes out the trend line too. Rising wedge and then pop. So I'm from a move in the mid-40s to the mid-90s in about the last 5-6 months. Is it volatile? Sure is. Does it have momentum? You betcha. Go to, well, this Chinese stock popped, exploded literally from 60 cents to about $4, and then went sideways for a couple months of wedge, but it broke out again. Now it's retesting. Target 7 and 9.5. Gravity, electronic gaming. I believe this is Chinese as well. Look at this, 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, an easy stop. Supports 51.2. Targets at 58 and 62. HIMX, I think Friday may have broken. It closed on the trend line or just beneath it, and it closed just beneath support. Careful with this one. But if it holds zone, a retest of 8.5 and then a run to 9.5 would be a possibility. One of my top picks of the year, HROW, ran up dramatically in February, made a new all-time high, I believe, in 2031, then pulled back and tested. Held successfully the moving average and trend line and bounced. Now it's backing off again, but the whole package, the whole pattern is a big bull wedge, which could lead to 24, my target. IDT coming out of the base, it popped and flagged, or falling wedge, and broke out Thursday, Friday in the middle of a lousy market. Pretty impressive. Target 37.5. IKNA coming out of a long downtrend, popped and retested that level, and then popped again from the flag and broke out. So it looks like it wants to push higher. My target is 6. By the way, on Friday, this is up 6.3% in a lousy market, a good sign too. IMBT, one of my top picks of the year, finally got a rollover last week. A lot of biotechs acting weak in here, and that is not a surprise to me. They are usually very vulnerable and very volatile, especially during pullback phases. However, key support in this one has to be this pullback low here at about 14.25. INDI in the semiconductor group, this base and breakout for Indy augurs well, but it did have a negative reversal late Friday, so watch it. Support 9.25, resistance 11, target is 12.25. INTA, look at this chart. Base, breakout, retest, and then work your way all the way up. Over the last 6 months, it's gone from 13 to 42. Friday pull back, however, to 48. So it might be right on support here. Watch for a potential reversal if it doesn't hold it right there. INTT, also a nice reversal, but now after running for weeks, is right up against key resistance here. Great chart, acting great. It was up every day last week in a lousy market. Amazing action. Target 19. Samsara or IoT really popped a week and a half ago and made it to a new high, 21 and change before backing off. I really needed to hold right about where it is. Your next support is 17.75. IQ, the tech trader swing, acting well and still holding. But you can see the multiple tops. This has got to take out 8. If it does so, you're looking at 10 and 12. Kala with a big pop and a 5-day flag. This looks really intriguing. I want to stop under 17.5 and then over at 24 to start to rock into the mid to high 20s, maybe low to mid 30s. KD, nice uptrend, pop, wedge, pop, retest, explode, and pull back, testing the gap here in the trend line. Key support in this area. Laser, well, a big move. We had a nice swing on it. Went from 5.75 and tagged 10 to 55, nearly doubling in a week and a half. Now the pullback, and the pullback's right to first support right there. I really need this one to hold the $8 range. Next target, 11.5, 12. Another little junior biotech, LRMR, coil pop, wedge pop, and another wedge. One more leg may take it up to fill the gap near 8. Luna has been great in the last couple months. It's consolidated a big run it had from the October-January period when it went from 4 to 10 and 10.5 range. It did stick its head out last week on Monday, only get dragged down by the market, but it got up there 11. My target's 13 if it breaks out again. Key stop under here, 8.5. MAXN exploded Wednesday, followed through Thursday, and had an inside day Friday. Like the way it's acting, left shoulder, head, right shoulder, maybe a massive inverse head and shoulder over the last 2 years. And if it does, it takes that out, you may see a run up to 38 to 40. MBOY, after the spin off from Intel, it went up, down, back up, and back down. That's forming a wedge. Let's watch it next week because this one's got to get back over 43 with energy. Then your targets are 48 and 55 if it does that. But the double bottom here at 37, 35.50 has got to be used for stopping point. MLCO, this gaming stock based and exploded in November, December, January, consolidating now. triple top up here. It's got to get to 14.10 range without dropping down under. And here's where your stop is, under 11.75. MNSO, look at this base breakaway gap. Pullback falling wedge, another wedge or coil, and then a beautiful run up that took it from 10 to almost 20, 19.49. Currently consolidating. The stock has gone nearly fivefold just since October. So it's vulnerable if the market does pull back. The momentum's strong, and you might see 21. Merck, one of my favorite companies, along with Bristol Myers, New Jersey companies. I'm from New Jersey. Look at this long-term chart. Wow. Very impressive. Lots of really cool drugs in the pipeline. Look at this long-term chart. So the bottom line is, I think you're going to see the stock at 115 and 125 if we get any kind of market cooperation here. See the wedge? If it pops out, that's where we go. Stop under 100. MRNA, no, never mind. NAT, another shipping stock. Look at this chart. It's the highest level since 2020. My next target is 5 and 6.5. NEO, tech trader swing broke out. We put a swing on it, it backed off and then popped. But did not have a good day Friday, dropping 5.3%. Nevertheless, it's still above support. Gets back above 19, targets at 22 and 25. NGL, this low-priced oil and gas stock, has gone bonkers from 1 to 4, 300% run up. And now the pullback. Target is 485. Key support would be Friday's low, though I don't want to see it under 340. Navitas, a junior semiconductor, has run nicely from 3.25 to 7, more than doubling recently. And now the pullback wedge. I like the look of it. Again, market cooperating. A stock like that could easily be $8. OCUP breaks out of a base, pulls back, and then pops and wedges. Nice chart overall. Target 4.5 and 5.25 if it extends. OI, well, this is a beauty. Breaks out of a long base, pops and wedges, pops again, and now wedging and pulling back. That's the trend line. I think key supports around 20. Resistance 23.5. Target 25 and 28 if it goes. Good chart. ONCS, I'm showing this because they have a long decline and I think a reverse split. Yep. The stock exploded a week and a half ago from about $1 to get up to 3, tripling, and then pulling back and bouncing. On Friday, it bounced again engulfingly. So I'm looking for 3, 4, and 6 going forward potentially. Keep an eye on this one, that's for sure. OPRA, what a nice chart. Runs from 4 to almost 10, 150% since October. The recent pullback was followed by Friday's pop to resistance. Next target 10.75. Support 8.25. PCVX popped, exploded in October, and consolidated. I put a swing on it. It then ran up, and I believe it's one of my top 20 picks. But you can see all these biotechs are getting hit now. Where this will be at the end of the year is a different story, but right now it's vulnerable. Careful. Perion, one of the better charts I've seen in the last couple of years, about 2 to 34, 17-fold. Recent consolidation coil broke out here. Falling wedge retested it, ran up sharply, took out the high and pulled back, and now took out that high and back off. So I'm going to have to stop it on the 32. My target's 40 and 45. PTGX, beautiful base pattern. Pop pullback, pop 3-wave corrective flag, and then exploded last week in the midst of a lousy market to take that stock from 15 to 25. 25.5 is tagged, and the next target is 30. Roblox popped and pulled back last week, but if it gets above 42.75, I'd be really intrigued with it for a move to mid 40s and then low to mid 50s. RCEL, base, platform, breakout, flag, pop. Looks like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 way move anyway, so it's dangerous here, and it did pull back Friday, so careful with this one. Remitly Global, key breakaway day, and follow-up pull back Friday and reverse. Really like the way its overall look is. This is a big base pattern. Right now I have targets for starters at about 17.5. Then 22. Good looking chart. Rig, talk about good looking. 1, 2, 3, 4. Look at the triple top there. This gets above 770. My target's 9.75 and 11. Powerful pattern. RLX, falling wedge, pop, and then retested in reverse. What an engulfing day on Friday. 195 to 258, finished 252 up 15%. Line spiked to 25 million. If it gets through here, we'll retest the 3305 area. Above that, target is 390. ROIV, a multiple wave move up out of a base. This is a tech trader top 20 pick. It's been consolidating and coiling. And Friday it did bounce when others came down, so the relative strength looks good. I just don't want to see it under 7.5, ideally. Red Robin Gourmet Burgers, after a long decline that took its solid go from the mid-30s down to 5, it's come all the way back to 12 and change before pulling back. But I like the look of this overall pattern, provided it sets up a nice enough consolidation. My next target is 15. RVPH, Reviva Pharmaceuticals exploded in August, falling wedge. There's your breakout. Strong run up and wedge, and then pop again. Now long coil. Something to watch, nothing to do until if I see a pop above 515 with energy. Then your targets are 6, 7.5, and 9. Rhythm, one of the better swings of the year. We got it right when it broke out around 5.75. It was quickly up to 31 in about 6 weeks. Went sideways and eventually extended to 35, but now it's pulled way back to test support. Careful on this one. Gaming stock SE, similar to Gravity. Look at that move that this had. 10 to 350, a 35-fold move. A big drop. The bottom of the platform could not break out and made lower lows. Here, it's gotten pop, pullback, pop. It's forming a new uptrend. And recently, as early as last Tuesday, it popped 13 points from 68 to 81 on 51 million shares, but then backed off a little bit. I still like the overall look. My target is 90.93 if the market cooperates, of course. SERA, look at this low price diagnostic stock that just broke out. It's got a rising flag. Got to pay attention to these charts. Tells me it wants to go higher. Target 4.75 and 6. Sigma lithium. Well, we've got multiple resistance up here at 38.40, but you can see how it's holding. As long as it holds 32, I'm good with it. About 38, you can see 42, 45 range. SkyT, another semiconductor stock that ran nicely from 6.25 to 16, basically. Formed the wedge and broke out. Now it's backed up again. Key resistance 16. We get through that looking for 1920. SPRB, big pop in January. Wedged, broke out, made a nominal high, but reversed hard and came down to support and bounced, support and bounced. So I like the fact it's held support. I'm looking for a rebound of 3 and 3.5. SQSP coming out of a year-long base on Tuesday, pulled back and had a bearish engulfing day Friday, but overall, if it can hold 25.25.5, I'm still looking for 30. SSYS, long downtrend, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then left shoulder, head, right shoulder, inverse head and shoulder breakaway gap, but comes on a potential takeover, which I don't think is going to happen, but I think a white knight could come in there like 3D Systems or somebody else. Target 21 eventually. STM, beautiful base, breakout of flag. In the midst of all of this, Taiwanese, and that's not Taiwan semi. STM micro, I think it's foreign anyway. But resistance up at 52 if you get through at 55 target. Another shipper, Scorpio Tankers, which had been a real laggard the year before, suddenly arose from 11.5 in January of 22 to 64 last couple of weeks, holding up pretty well considering. 57 is stop, 64 is breakout, 69.70 would be target. SYM, Symbiotic, Broke out of a base, retested, popped resistance, and pulled back to the trend line and popped. Engulfing bullish bar on Friday. Looks like it wants to go to 21, 22, 23. TERN, one of my top 20 picks of the year. Bad day Friday, dropping 8.5%, but it's at the trend line, although it is below the 50. Be careful with this one. It's had a big run from $1.50 to 11 and change. Technoglass, the Tech Trader swing went in a beautiful chart indeed. Finally popped and exploded. It made a new high, 43.84 on Thursday, only to drop all the way down to 38, and then bounced, closed at 40.95. So let's just see what this does here. The trend is still intact. I would stop under there, under 30 like 7. Over 43.5, you're looking at high 40s. TGTX, base breakout platform, engulfing reversal bar on big volume. And look what that did after that. I literally went from 688 to 19.5, tripling, and then the pullback. Friday was a very bad day, down 247 or 15%. It's at support. Careful. Target Hospitality, I've been talking about this since it broke out here. It formed that wedge. It's really doing well. As a matter of fact, last week, technically, this coil broke out. Your target is 18. You get through that, you're looking at 22, 23. Great chart. Tigo or Millicom International. Breakout here, falling wedge, another pop, gap, pull coil. If it goes, 21 and 24 are targets. Another Shepherd, TK Tanker. Look at this TNK. 10 to 47. And it doesn't look done, although it was down on Friday. We'll have to keep an eye on this one. My target now, 55.58. UCL exploded in October, November. Went from 45 cents eventually to over 6.5. And that is in an orderly retracement. It looks like a big 1, 2, 3, 4. The fifth wave could take it to 7, 8, 9. Something to watch. UMC, Tech Trader swing, left shoulder, head, right shoulder, breakout, breakaway gap, breakout, run up and wedge. I like this look a lot. Targets are 9, 9.5 zone, and then looking up here at about 11. UNCY, what a move last week in the midst of everything, just went ballistic. Gapped up and ran 50 cents to $3 basically, almost. Targeting 3.25, 3.85 on momentum, but be careful. Viking Therapeutics, beautiful chart, base breakaway gap, coil, breakout, retest. Target is 14.15 if it holds here. Weatherford finally cracked on Friday. It looks like it might have broken the trend line, but it's a little bit under initial support at that gap there. Any further damage, and that's it for this one. But it had a huge run from 17 to 70. How's that? Top 20 pick Wave, been continuing to drift. Friday was not a good day for it, as it appears to may have cracked the wedge, or at least extending it to the downside. Let's take a look at it. It's right there. This needs to hold in this zone or it's going to fall apart. Your target's 7, 8, 9, but be careful on this too. XM Qualtrics International breakaway gap, flag, pop, and then pull back. I like the overall look of this one. It's dropped from the low 50s to under 10, and then broke out, and now it looks like it might run again. My target's 19. XPON, awfully choppy and spiky, but it looks like it's holding up better than most. Any move on this one next week above 6.25, it might be an $8, $9 stock. Keep an eye on that too. Yext and a beautiful rising channel after popping and flagging and popping and flagging and popping and falling wedge. It spiked again. Had a bullish engulfing reversal on Thursday, but came down hard on Friday, so careful with that one. But momentum could carry us to 10, 11. Zeta in a beautiful rising channel, pulled back this week, but it's still in positive territory, holding support right there. Next target is 12 and 13.5. And finally, Zyme, one of my top 20 picks, had a tough time, like many of the biotechs have. It did pop midweek, only to pull back down again. They do not want this underneath 740, but my target will be 10 and 12 if it does break back out again. Now, on the short side, I'm going to talk about lots of stocks today because I've added a bunch of new ones, but I want you to see what I'm seeing on some of these stocks. because I don't know how far this market comes down, but these stocks are extremely vulnerable. Now, A-Mark, I know this company very well. I know the CEO and owner. Had a huge run, literally from 3 and change into the 40s. Now, left shoulder, head, right shoulder, a massive type of top formation. It came down, bounced, formed a wedge, and got creamed again on Friday before bouncing. I don't like the look of this chart. I think you'll see a retest of 24 and maybe as low as 21 or worse. APA, well, that is one of my tech trader oils that I think could be shorts. It broke its pattern from the rising bear flag and rolled over. Your targets are somewhere in that 30, 32 zone for starters. If it should break that, look out below. AZTA, Azenta, terrible breakdown and a falling wedge, and now another drop. I don't know how far they take this down, but it doesn't look good. 36.5, 7 is your first target, second target 30. Baba's been rolling over. It broke 1, 2, 3, 4 layers of support. It broke another one on Thursday. Awfully negative looking chart. Your next key support is 74.5. BILL is a new tech trader swing. When I saw it break down and snap back, we gave you a swing. It got creamed last week, dropping from 92 to 67. How about that for a 25-point run? Well, I don't think it's done yet. You might see the stock in the mid-50s. Calyx, this head and shoulder top and breakdown, definite tech trader, a box of short, should have been a tech trader swing. It broke down out of this 5-week bear coil and dropped another 234, almost 5% Friday. My target's now 43 and 40 or less. CF, this looks like it just broke a massive 1-year support level on Friday. I would not be shocked to see this down low 70s and mid to high 60s. I may put a swing on that Monday morning. Short. CI short, gave you that a couple weeks ago. It strolled over from 300 to 270. Bounced Friday off the bottom of the channel. I still think you got lower levels to come. It's 260 and 240. Clearfield broke its wedge last week. Broke its coil, I should say. This has been ugly since it broke right there. Barely able to bounce it at all. Wouldn't be surprised to see mid-40s on this. ConocoPhillips, another massive major oil with a bearish looking chart. Long-term trend line broken. Bear rising wedge forms. Stock rolls over. Minimum target would be a test of 98 next week, I think. But it could fall apart and get down to the 90 or even 88. CPRI, I told you this breakdown bear wedge looked awesome on the short side. Ominous is the word. Look at that breakdown last week. 48 to 42. I got a target of 38, if not worse. CRT just got blasted. It went from 30 to 15 and cut in half in 3 weeks. Nothing to do here. It's too oversold short term. If it bounces, it might be a move to 13. So let's see if we can get it short off at 18 or something. CBX, another major oil, breaking this trend and forming bear flags. Look out below. DDS, hard move down, rising wedge, and now breaking down. Yeah, I think so. Targeting 295 and 260. DGX, massive top formation and a snap back to the neckline, then a failure. This is a tech trader potential swing short as well, down to 120 or less. Dyno is a current tech trader swing short. Sinclair Oil looks like it's going to roll over. And if it takes out 47.5, targeting 42 and 36. A new one I added, that's Domino's Pizza. Look at this massive left shoulder, head, right shoulder type. How about a 3-year head and shoulder top? Something is wrong here. I think it goes lower, a lot lower, 270, 240, and even 220, all targets. Devon Energy, another oil stock that looks wickedly negative. Look at the big volume on the downside here. Bear flag right here. And then the rollover. If this takes out 49.50, 43 and 36.7 are targets. Another oil, Equinor, with a massive head and shoulder top breakdown, snap back to the 50 and unable to get through. Now we may be forming a new declining channel right there. And even if it's only that, you can see where it could be 27 25 or less. FN, Fabrinet's breaking its topping pattern as well, broke on Friday. I'm targeting 108, 97, and 91. KEYS, breakdown bear wedge, hammered on Friday. It did bounce back. But I got to tell you right now, if this thing gets under 150, we're looking at as low as 130. MRNA, this is a little head and shoulder top, a breakdown and a bear flag. You know what happened to Novavax? I'm not saying the same thing with mRNA, but I do think with this double, triple bottom down here, your target is 113, 184.5. NFE, massive top, breakdown, pop. Looks to me like a rising bear wedge here. A breakdown, a snapback, and lower lows. This one should or could get down to 27 and 1920. Overstock continues to look negative. It's been on my list for months, maybe years, ever since a year ago, when it was a $50 stock, and now it's 18 and looking lower. Target 14. PBH, head and shoulder top with a bear wedge and a breakdown. Another little flag forming. I'm targeting 54. Pinduo Duo, well, finally it looks to me like this could be a topping pattern. And if it breaks the neckline next week, I'm targeting 72 and 65. Plexus is a current tech traded swing, short. After coming down and bouncing, it formed this. I put a tech traded swing short on it. And then came down and bounced, but didn't do much. It actually extended the pattern to make it look like a larger coil, which would lead to a bigger move down. I think you're going to test 86.7. You may get down into the mid 70s. ROST, Ross Stores, looks like it broke a head and shoulders, snapped back and failed, and it came down now. So that gap gets me to 98. Below that, 89.90. SMLR has been lousy and on my short list for a year and a half. It still looks terrible. It's dropped from 120 to 21, and it looks like it's going to be 18 and 16 going forward. Two cows, TCX, big bear coil broke, and now another one's set up. A wedge has 18 and 15 targets. Tandem has been negative since it broke here. Bear wedge there, another large one there. You can see if this one drops on 35.6, it could be in the 20s. TRTN, a new one I just found with a head and shoulder top. This rising bear wedge here failed at the moving averages right there and rolled over. I'm targeting 59.60 for starters. TTGT broke that big rising bear flag and it's come down, is at the bottom of the channel. So nothing to do here. It's already dropped from 102 down to 35, but it looks like it could be 30. VICR broke hard and formed the bear wedge. I'm looking for 35, 32 on this one. VIR, this one broke a little head and shoulder type top. It's got a bear wedge forming. I think it drops to 20 and 18 and a half. VTLE, this is formerly Laredo Petroleum. It's an ongoing tech trader swing short in the oil sector. I think once it drops to the double bottom, you're going to see this drop to 40, 37, maybe even down into the 29, 30 range. That's it. That's all we got for you, folks. A long webinar today covering longs and shorts and technicals. And folks, there's a lot of info in this weekend's webinar. I took a lot of time doing the research for it, so please pay attention to it. Take your notes and be ready for Monday, because you're going to have a rough, volatile week, in my opinion. Stay tuned and have a great rest of your weekend. Bye, everybody.